Donald Boyles with Coach Vierra as we're on the cusp of a brand new season. Thought we would discuss a little bit about historical season last year.
Yeah.
That was pretty exciting. Go through the process of when you realized that you had a very special team to that moment. What was that moment like for you?
Yeah, so realized that we had a really special team a lot earlier than a lot of people did. We were down in San Antonio at the Raising Cane's tournament, and it came down to Elimination Saturday. We're down, I believe it was 6 runs going into the 6th inning, and proceeded to chip away one after another against a really good Smithson Valley team.
Oh, yeah.
And was able to ultimately walk it off in the 7th inning late after being down by a huge amount. And that was the first time when really noticed that, hey, this group has some sort of fight that not a lot of other clubs do. But then kind of like you and I were talking about earlier, I mean, you come down last week of the season, we fight through the really hard 25-5A district with a really good Cedar Park and really good Rouse and Liberty Hill teams and a really good Leander team as well. I believe they were one game out from getting in the playoffs. And,
Right.
I mean, but so we go over to that last week, and we had to make a big lineup decision with one of our starters, and had a guy step in a shortstop, and Wade Denton, who hadn't played a game of shortstop since the inter squads on Wednesdays and since the tournament game. So he steps in, fills in, and does a great job picking it, and makes a big Jeter play in the 6th hole. And watching those guys compete for those last 2 games, and going over to Cedar Park on that Friday was a statement game for our guys.
Right.
And that was kind of the moment when we realized, you got a chance to do something fun. And then to go the entire playoff with only losing 1 game was something special for our guys. Just watching the confidence exude from them with the number of games that we were down and came back in, with the number of games that we had to go extra innings with, and just watching those guys thrive in those moments was something that I'll never forget.
Well, talk about that senior class, because you had Mazak and Wade Denton,
Yeah.
and then the lefty Haddon
Yeah.
on that mound, who was very vital for you, and even in the championship game,
Yeah.
he came up big for you. So
Yeah.
talk about some of those seniors that played a big role for you last year.
So I don't think there was a senior that didn't play a big role. I mean, we were anticipating a guy like Nick Nolan was going to be our number 1 guy, and he goes out in his first district start and tweaks his elbow, and he's done. Didn't play another inning. So then we have Haddon Jacobs step up, and ends up being a really big part of what we do. He gives us quality starts every week, and you got Nick Silva, who gave us great pitching all the way, and he had some health stuff going on at the beginning of the year. You got Reese Bell, who was playing first base. He was kind of fighting through some injury stuff at some certain times, and he was going there. And then you got E.J. Davis, who's an undersized dude that just refuses to quit and give up at any point in time. You got Logan Smith, who wasn't heavily recruited by anybody, and he ends up having some of the biggest hits that we got. Then you go through the outfield with Ty Klaus Kaisemore in left, and you got Landon Highland right. And I think a lot of guys don't realize those 2 guys played on our junior varsity as juniors, which for us is a really big deal because we typically don't keep juniors. And those 2 dudes could have had the opportunity to just cash it in and be like, nah, I'm not going to play JV baseball. And Scott Beam was the 3rd one that played JV as junior. And all 3 of those guys made big plays. I mean, you go down the list, and Landon Heil had some of the biggest hits in our season, like as you make the run. Choppers for extra RBIs and sac flies, and just was able to get it done.
Didn't he have one in the Canyon game at Westlake?
He did.
He did.
I think he had the one that tied everything up.
Tied it.
He had the tying knock, and did that there, and then Ty Klaus Kaisemore gets on base and just creates havoc on the bases.
Yeah.
He scores on a ball at Floresville that gets 5 feet away from the catcher. He's able to steal home and score a run there. So then you got Adam Petty in center field, who went from when he started for us for 3 years as sophomore, junior, and senior, and really struggled offensively for the first 2 years. And last year he ends up having a walk-off hit against Sherryland Pioneer in the regional finals to send us to the state tournament. And so it's just, and then you got Mazak behind the plate, who is just an absolute energizer bunny. was a leader and keep everybody moving in the right path the entire time. You got Wade Denton in the back end of the bullpen, who when the bullets are flying and people are dying and people are freaking out, you can go out there and hand Wade the ball and he goes, got it, and then it's over.
Right.
And there's just so many guys that played such a huge role in that entire season that when you look at the overall picture of what the season looked like and who those guys were and what they did, you start to realize that there's a lot of character in those guys.
Is that what the Eagles fight never dies really emphasized there, or is that, to me that's really what that team was all about, that EFND?
Yeah, for sure. There was never a moment when they were going to shut it down. There was never a moment where they were going to quit. There was never a moment where they were just going to roll over and take it. It was always okay, I didn't get it, I'm going to trust the next guy to get it. That next man had a personality of, listen, it might not be my time to get the big hit, but I'm going to make sure that I'm there for my brother. And it's as cliche as it is, those dudes loved each other. Genuine love for each other. And that to me is why we do what we do, is to watch those guys fall in love and take care of each other and bond the way that they did. I mean, Thanksgiving, I get a picture from one of the guys' dads, and he says, hey, they threw together a Friendsgiving while they were all back in town together. It was that entire class, all 14 of them. So it was really cool to see like how it wasn't just we did something cool and now we're all going to go our separate ways. It was we did this together and we love each other. We're going to continue to lifelong friendship type situation.
So let's talk about that moment in Del Dime.
Yep.
That moment. Walk us through that with us. What was it like? What was going through your head when Haddon whips around and picks the guy off at third?
Yeah, so first of all, you got to back up to the dude that was at the plate was the only guy that had a really good at bat the entire game.
Yeah.
Like he had barreled the ball, had taken some really good pitches.
Yeah.
The pitch right before that, he had fouled it straight back. Like we were fully anticipating that in that at bat they were going to steal him. Like we'd already told Mays, like shut it down. Like we're not throwing that ball. We don't want that guy to score, so we're just going to shut it. And he didn't. And then we get 0-2, and I look at Pan. Pan looks at me, and kind of looked at my card to see what was going on, and looked up, and Jacob's throwing the ball to the third baseman, and and the last out's made, and everybody goes crazy.
Oh, wow.
So it was a totally unexpected scenario, but what's cool is...
so all of that transpired on the field between Mazak, Haddon, and who was that third?
Logan Smith.
Logan Smith. So that was
all them.
All them.
All them. Logan saw the coach say something and started watching very closely, and so then he started, Jacob, step off! Finally, Jacob heard him, stepped off, stayed cool, calm, collected, threw a strike, and got it done. What's cool is we spend a lot of time in first and thirds. Like that's something that Foster before me spent a lot of time installing offensively and defensively. It's something that our guys have really taken a lot of pride in. It's something that we touch up on periodically. And the other side of that story that a lot of people don't know is New Braunfels Canyon did the same thing to Jacob in the second round, third round, wherever that was, and he balked. It was very questionable if he actually balked or not. Got to super slow it down. But they got him to balk. They did it a little bit differently, but there was, in principle, the same play. Guy first base takes off, guy third base takes off, Jacob steps off, stays cool, calm, collected, collects the out. So it was really cool to see in a moment where something crazy that you typically don't anticipate happening happens, and it's something that you spend a ton of time on, and that ends up being the final out. So,
but that had to be a very loud message to the players.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things that no matter how small it is, it will have a big impact on the game itself.
Amen. Amen. And that kind of plays into a lot of stuff that we do here. Is the details are finite. Like the details are what make the big picture the best. And if you don't have all of those details in the picture, the picture looks like crap. So we want to make sure that those details are always lining up to make the bigger picture what you want it to be. And it's a testament to those guys from last year's club to buy into that, right? Like you can sell it as much as you want, but if ain't nobody buying it, it don't matter. And so those guys did a really good job of buying into it and selling out to it.
Yeah. What is that moment like for you though, as a coach?
Ooh.
Because you've had some very good coaches previous to you.
Yeah.
Wallace.
Yeah.
Foster.
Yeah.
That never been able to.
Right. So personally, it meant a lot for, get me all choked up. It meant a lot to me for a number of reasons. One, I'm from Georgetown,
Yes.
and this program's given me more than I could ever
Right.
anticipate.
Right.
The year before, we had a really difficult season.
Right. I remember
It was a really challenging year, and then the amount of time that we spend doing what we do.
that. Mm-hmm.
It's 80 hours a week in the spring,
Yeah.
and then once playoffs get rolling, you're up early and you're here late, and
Yeah.
don't get to see my kids very much, especially in the playoff run. And so and then I look at our pitching coach Chad Payne. Chad's been doing this for over 30 years. Never made it to a state tournament, and for him to get that is just as big.
Right.
And it's all those emotions that you hold on to for so long because you can't let them get out of control.
Uh-huh.
And the last out's made, and the realization that it's over happens,
Yeah.
and those emotions just go nuts.
Right.
Right. So just watching other guys celebrate, watching the joy on their face,
Priceless.
it's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, those are some of my favorite pictures. And then getting to hug Chad and feeling the emotion that he had in that moment, getting to see our trainers be excited. Chad Hennessy's been here since 2007, 2006.
Was that with Wallace?
That was with Wallace. That was my senior year here.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, seeing the emotion that he had, and he spent time at the University of Miami and the New Orleans Saints, and you name it, the premier places that are known for winning championships, and he's never been a part of winning the last one. And so, just to see all of that come together, and then once everything slowed down, seeing Adam and Dusty come on the field.
I remember that. That was pretty special.
That was special. So much that goes into it. 4 years before, I lost my dad.
Yeah. So was Adam more like a father figure to you?
Yeah, Adam's been
A big brother?
he's been a big brother forever. I mean,
Yeah.
his first year at Georgetown was his first year coaching at Georgetown was my freshman year of high school, and so he was my position coach as a freshman in high school.
Uh-huh.
So I got yelled at by that man for a very long time. And he knew that he could say things to me that he couldn't say to everybody else.
Right.
Because my daddy was a coach on campus. So we got very close very fast during that time. I was a cage rat. I never left the cage. I was up here hitting all the time.
Yeah.
He really appreciated that about me. He was up here with me all the time to the point that his wife thought that he was running around on her because he couldn't get me to leave the cage. And so, it's just one of those deals. And then you leave for college, and he and I kept up really well for a long time.
Yeah.
And then when a job opened, he gave me a call and said, "Hey, I got a job for you." And I'm not gonna tell him no. So,
Right.
and then whenever he left Angelo and recommended that I be the guy and going through that entire process of what that looked like and how that shook out and took place, and for a guy that's been one of your biggest mentors and one of your biggest advocates to say, "I want you to be the guy that takes over the program that I helped build."
Yeah.
There's not a better sense of responsibility than that. He, if you see it, he left that over the computer the last day that he was here. Look at it every day. The mantra of, you gotta leave this place better than you found it. And so, yeah, really special.
All right. So let's talk about this season.
Yeah.
How do you transfer over from winning the state to this season? What's your message to the players this year?
So the message to players early was the 2022 state champions graduated.
Yeah.
You just get the target, right? Because everybody knows the G's a target, right? Everybody looks at Georgetown and says, "We want to beat Georgetown," for
Right.
whatever reason that is.
Right.
We've been fortunate to have a lot of really good players come through here over the past 20 years or so, and so to continue that legacy is something that we want to continue. And so when we win it last year and see those guys take off, it leaves a cavity, right? Obviously, but it also leaves a legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And we're fortunate to have a lot of our younger guys be a part of that trip. And so, those guys are able to be around our older guys quite a bit, and that's one of the reasons why we do the things we do the way that we do them. It's because we want them to be able to spend that time together. And so the younger guys were able to see how those guys led, how those guys interacted, how those guys worked. And it's been fun to see the transformation from, hey, we're the big guy around here, to, hey, we gotta work. And to see that transition hasn't just gone away. Right? That we're not just resting on our laurels. That we're realizing that, hey, we got a lot of work to do. Hey, we graduated 13 guys. Like, if you look at our roster, we got a shortstop back, we got a DH back, and on the mound we got like 20 innings back. We don't have a lot of experience, which is a good thing and it's a challenge, right? It's a good thing because you get to see what these younger guys can do.
Yeah.
And it's a challenge because you gotta do a lot of teaching. And so that's kind of been our message, especially the last month or so, is our ability to learn and adapt is going to determine how well we do this season. If we decide that we're just going to bang our head against the wall and say ow, and then hit our head against the wall again and go ow, and then hit our head against the wall and say ow again, then it's going to be a rough go.
Yeah. At some point in time, you got to realize that, hey, if I don't hit my head on the wall, it won't hurt.
Right, exactly. So just making that adaptation. It's going to be big, and I'm excited about the group that we got. I think that we got some guys that are going to be able to step up and fill in some voids, and there's going to be fierce competition for spots all the way around.
Yeah.
So that part was fun throughout the fall of seeing those guys compete and get after it, and then ultimately it's about those guys loving each other and trusting that if they're not getting the job done, somebody else will, and that we're all fighting for the same cause.
So you're moving into district, what was it, 23 5A?
Yeah.
Who's in that district this year, do you?
So it's Eastview, Elgin, Pflugerville, Hendrickson, Conley, Bastrop, Cedar Creek, and us.
Okay.
I don't think I missed anybody.
No, that sounds about right.
So,
another good baseball district.
yeah, I mean, it's going to be competitive top to bottom, you know?
Yeah.
I think that we're going to have our hands full with a couple of different clubs out there.
Uh-huh.
It's going to be good to get to play some different faces.
Yeah.
Get to change that up a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't look too far ahead, but if you do make it out of the district, you get to go to the gauntlet that is Region 3 too. Go play all those premier Region 3 schools like
Yeah.
friends with.
Right.
Who ran to the state tournament.
Right.
So, yeah, it's gonna be a ride.
It's going to be a fun season.
It is.
It's going to be a fun season. All right. Well, Coach Vierra, thank
Oh.
you. I appreciate it.
And I would be remiss if I didn't say thank you for everything that you do for
Appreciate
Texas
that.
high school
Oh, man,
baseball,
I love it.
especially in Central
I love
Texas.
it.
It's,
I love it. To be able to come in here and sit down and reminisce about
yeah,
days past and looking ahead. You know, as adults, we know what's coming up.
yeah,
We know what's coming up. But for the kids, it's all about that buy-in. Get
Yeah.
them to buy into what you're trying to teach them.
amen.
So, Coach Vierra, I appreciate your time.
Yes, sir.
Have an awesome season. I'll be around.
Sounds good. Can't wait. Thanks, Donald.